Okay, so this is just a short video talking about the basics of APA formatting. Um, the first thing to notice is that all of your font should always be Times New Roman, size 12, and it should also be double spaced. So you can find the font and the size up here, and if for spacing, you can go under Paragraph, and then change this to double. So it should always be double spaced if it's APA. I just made an example paragraph here. So the first thing we'll look at is in-text citation. So that's when you cite your sources within the paragraph that you're writing. So here it says, if you paraphrase information from another source, then you should immediately follow the information with the author and the publishing date of that source. So this would be the author's last name here, and then the date that their source, whatever it is, if it's a book or an article, this should be the date that it was published, that it came out. If there are more than one author for the source, then you will put it author and then use the ampersand thing, and then the other author. And then make sure you have the comma and the date. So you use the author's last name, use the ampersand for and the period or other notations should be after the parentheses. So here you have author, comma, 2014, and then you put the period after you put the in-text citation, so we know that this author goes with the information that was before it. So there's no period after the end of the sentence. You wait until after you put the in-text citation. So this one is an example of if you paraphrase information. So instead of an exact quotation, you're just summarizing what a chapter said or summarizing an idea from an author. Then you can just, when you're done summarizing it, you can put the author and the date at the end of the part that you summarized. And then down here, I put how you can also, instead of just summarizing it and putting their name at the end, you can introduce them at the beginning of the way that you summarized it. So this would be the last name of the author again. So author and author, and then in parentheses, the date of their work that you cited, suggests the following information. So this wouldn't be where the citation is at the end. Instead, you can just put it at the beginning. So Smith and Jones said the following information. And then if you have information from different authors, you need to make sure that when you transition into that new information, you include the new authors. And the same goes for if you put it at the end. So all of this information was from author 2014, and then we know that the next sentence comes from author and author, the other people, 2014. So just make sure we know where the information is coming from. So the source's publishing date is included after the author or authors' names. And then I just explained this bit of information there. So that's what it should look like for the actual paragraphs. And then this is the reference page. So the only part of the page is the stuff outside of the boxes. The boxes are just my notes. So the font is still Times New Roman, size 12. The top of the title or the heading of the page should be references, and it should not say bibliography, works cited, sources, or anything besides the word references. That's what it's used for. That's what's used for APA. I know that it can be hard to remember what the title should be because in other formatting guides there are different words that are used, but remember to do references and remember to capitalize it and remember that it's centered at the top of the page. This page is also double spaced and it should be using a hanging indent. So the hanging indent is seen here where the author's name on the top is all the way to the left, but then if there's a second line of that source, then it will be indented to the right. So that's called a hanging indent. And to find that, you can click on paragraph again. And here's indentation. And you'll do a special indentation. And dropping down, it'll say hanging. And change it to hanging there. And that's what you should use for your reference page. So I'm just going to read through the tips that I have here. The author's name should be last name and then first initial. So the last name, comma, first initial, period. And then the parentheses, the date of publication, and remember the period is always outside of that parentheses. And then the rest of this is going to vary depending on whether you use a book or if you use a journal article or whatever it is that you're citing. It's going to have different rules, and it can be really specific, so I'm not going to go into the specifics of everything, but at the bottom of this I do include a website that gets into very specific details about how to go about things, so I would recommend using that, and I use it all the time. Even though I've used APA for a while, I still have to look up some of the details. So titles of books and articles only have the first word capitalized and then the first word of the subtitle capitalized. Okay, so this is referring to, so here's the title of the book. The first word is capitalized, but then the rest of it will not be capitalized. Unless there's a subtitle, then you capitalize the first word of the subtitle, but then the rest of that is not capitalized. So it's kind of unique to APA. It's a little bit odd when you first start because you're used to capitalizing everything in a title, but it doesn't always, it's not supposed to be capitalized after the first word. And that will be something that you can look up as well. Pay close attention to the commas and periods. They're very specific. So remember, all the details really matter. And then here's another small detail, is the volume number of a journal will be italicized, but the issue number and the pages are not. And journal articles are really common to cite once you get into a lot of the higher coursework. So just little details to know. And also you alphabetize the authors by their last name. This is for the primary authors that you find on the far left. So A is on the top and N is the next one, and then Z would be an author near the bottom. So like A, B, C down to the bottom. That's how you alphabetize the authors. This isn't referring to if you have a source that has multiple authors. You don't have to alphabetize them within the source. You just put them in the order that they appear on the source. I was talking about alphabetizing from A at the top and Z would be down here at the bottom. So just wanted to make that clear. And then again, this is not an all-inclusive tool for APA formatting. It's just including the basics. This website is very helpful. So I would put it on your favorites, on your toolbar, or whatever, however you mark things that you go to quite a bit, because it is a really good source. So what I did is I pulled it up so that we could look at that briefly. When you click on that link, it will bring you to this. It's called the Purdue University OWL Online Writing Lab. So OWL Online Writing Lab. So it has the general format of APA formatting, but then along the left here is specific things that you can look at. So like in-text citations that I was talking through, they have the basics of in-text citations, and it will just have, like, if you're doing a short quotation or if you're doing a long quotation, it will always have really clear examples. And then here's a summary or paraphrase of information. So they have in-text citation basics, and then they also have the reference list. And it will step you through how to include your sources on the reference list. So if there's one author, two authors, several authors. Also, it specifies by if you're citing a book, basic formatting for books, basic formatting for articles and in periodicals, and then it will always have a very specific example that you can follow. So this is my go-to APA formatting guide, and it has a whole bunch of different really detailed examples for you there. So this is what I would recommend, and if you just want the basics and want to take a look at this will be helpful as well. So I hope that this helps out, and if you have any questions, I'm sure that you can shoot your instructional intern or whoever it is helping out with your class an email, and we'll be willing to help. Have a great afternoon.